Ready? It's time, guys. We are going to do... the Elite Spec ranked by fun in PvE playlist. Tier list. Right. Alright, let's do this. You can disagree with me if you want on any of these. I don't give a fuck. Alright. Remember, this is ranked purely by fun. And if anyone knows about having fun, it's me, because I hate gaming. So if I find something fun, it's because it must be really fun, because I hate gaming. What kind of PvE? All kinds of PvE. Any kind of... If it's fun in any sense in PvE, it's kind of like an amalgamation of all the different modes. So... we're going to start off with... why is the base spec involved? Really? Base specs? Okay, we'll do base specs too. We'll start off with base Ellie. Is base Ellie fun? No, not particularly. So base Ellie, what does it actually have going for it in PvE? Really, the only build that's still good on base Ellie in any sense in PvE is just like a heal staff water Ellie with Soothing Mist. Like, honestly, that's... so I'm gonna have to put base Ellie in D tier. It's not fun. It is not fun. Alright, next we have Catalyst. Catalyst. A lot of people are like, ha ha ha, Catalyst is base Ellie with a hammer. That might be so, but look at it this way, guys. Imagine that base Ellie is just a plain hamburger. No, two buns, the meat patty, no condiments, no cheese, no nothing. Just like the most plain hamburger ever. That's base Ellie. Well, Catalyst is base Ellie, but it has some cheese on top. And it does a lot of different things. And maybe it doesn't even have cheese. Maybe it has like an avocado mayonnaise with a little bit of ketchup and a Dijon mustard. It's nice. It is much better than base Ellie. So as far as fun goes, I'm going to put it squarely in C tier. It is not my cup of tea, but it is good. It's good. All right, Tempest. Tempest has several builds that are fun. I think Tempest as a DPS build, underrated. I think you can play Condi Tempest, and you're not gonna like blow people's minds with your damage. But if you're a good player, and you know your Condi Tempest rotation really well, you can pug on it and do very well, and still dump on people. It's not like crazy. So yeah, and plus then you also have the option to play. You can play the Aura heal build with boons like Teapot does. You could even play like the Staff Water Ellie girlfriend healer. You can, in open world, you can play with Celestial gear and play Condi in open. It's good. I'm gonna go with Tempest. That's an A. It's also got a class mechanic that is understandable. I think you could take someone who is very new to Guild Wars 2 and explain Tempest to them after they could play like Elementalist for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes and kind of like go, okay, I kind of understand where an Ellie is, and you could explain Tempest to them, and it would immediately make sense to them in a very understandable way. So Tempest, very fun, very good. Which brings us to Weaver. Weaver is another underrated spec. It is basically Ellie, it's base Ellie, but on like meth. It's like base Ellie if it decided to do a bunch of crystal meth, clean its house, and walk to like across the state. It only had, well, it actually has, it has 3 reasonable builds. It has power, hybrid, and condi. They all play almost exactly the same. Actually, I take that back. The hybrid one, which is the best, it has fresh air. But the playstyles are all roughly simple. You're pressing like your good skills and you're changing attunements as fast as you possibly can. That playstyle, very hit or miss though. Some people are going to look at Weaver and just immediately go, this playstyle is not for me. It's very one-dimensional. It's a DPS only spec. It doesn't have any, you don't have the option to play it in any other way. So people are going to say, you know, that people are going to either go, that's the spec for me. I love it. It's super fast-paced. It's a lot of presses, yada yada. You get to play sword dagger or sword focus. I like this. And other people are just going to go, nope, it's trash. So as a result, I'm going to have to put that in C tier, simply because there's no way it's S tier for anybody. Nobody's going to say that it's S tier fun. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say Weaver's D tier, and there's probably a few people that are going to say it's like somewhere around A or B. So on average, I think it evens out to a C. And it feels similar to Catalyst in that it's like base Ellie with like Catalyst is like base Ellie on like club drugs, like psychedelics, and Weaver is base Ellie on like actual methamphetamine. So they're both in the drug category. And then now we come to base NG, which is immediately going into D tier. I'd imagine a lot of the specs are going to fall into D tier, but the base specs. But yeah, base NG, it's terrible. The only build I think that's any good with it is like the old school, super old school dungeon condi build. Yeah, it's not good. It's not fun. It's boring as fuck. It's out of here. It's out of here. Now Holosmith. Holosmith has one build in PvE, just one. Some people might lie to you and tell you that Holosmith has a condi spec, but it does not have a condi spec. It's not a real condi spec. It has a power spec that has weapon options. Nova Carry is correct. It has one build. However, that build is so good it's fucking S tier, and that's it. There's no argument. Holo's S tier. Why is it S tier? Because it has insane animations. Hollow Forge is fucking pog. When you go into Hollow Forge, it feels awesome. And it just feels right. Your skills have badass animations. They're actually good. The skills aren't like wet noodle. It's awesome. Yeah, it's S tier, man. Holosmith, big pog. All right, now we have Mechanist. I'm gonna go ahead and put Mechanist in D tier. It's well known that I hate pet classes. Everyone knows that I hate pet classes. The star of the show is your pet, and not you. So I can judge all the EOD specs. It's all based on beta 2. Obviously, the EOD specs are subject to change. They might be different on release. They might be better. But I don't think, no matter what they do to Mechanist, it's going to get over the fact that it is a pet class. Now, is the pet that Mechanist has cooler than all the pets that Ranger gets? Yes. The mech is cooler than Ranger pets. That's a fact. But that doesn't change what it is. So Mechanist stays D tier, and that's it. I don't think they can fuck with it. Next, Scrapper. Now this might surprise you guys. I like Scrapper. I think that DPS Scrapper, maybe not so great in raids, but you know what? Scrapper is one of the most fun open world specs, especially when you have the gain barrier based on a percentage of the crit damage that you do or whatever. That's fucking sweet. It makes soloing things on a full DPS build really good. It's a fun build. You also have the quickness support build in raids if you want to play a little bit supporty. I don't know. The spec does a lot. Is it like, would I put it on S tier in like the raid effectiveness meta? No, it would not be an S tier raid build. It's obviously not an S tier fractal build, but we're just talking about fun. And I defy you when you play Hammer Scrapper, when you're just running around in open world with Hammer Scrapper, it is fun. It is fun. And so therefore it is A tier. You will have fun when you play it. And there's that. And it's also really good in dungeons. It is a hugely underrated dungeon build. Since you can do party stealth, big CC, good damage, and yeah, so we go A tier with that. Base Guardian. This might be the exception to most of the base classes sucking, because Base Guardian is pretty sweet. Yeah, it's not as flashy as Dragonhunter, but it, you know, I think it's carried here in PvE by the fact that the Greatsword on Guardian animations are insane. Like Greatsword 3 and Greatsword 2, they feel great to use. No matter where you are in PvE, it feels great to do like Greatsword 4, Greatsword 3, Greatsword 2, whatever order you do it. You obviously want to put the symbol down first, but the animations feel great. Is it a super poggers class to play? Are you gonna be like super excited to play Base Guardian? No, but it is a better vanilla spec, so it goes in C tier. It's fine. Next up is Dragonhunter. Dragonhunter takes everything good about base Guardian, and is just a slightly more fun version. And why is it more fun? Because the trap with the procession of blades, with the spinny blades that go, it's like the blender. It's like you guys have all done this. You got your Vitamix or your Ninja blender or whatever you use, and you turn it on and you just want to stick your hand in that. You want to stick your hand into the blender to see if it will go through the bone and chop your hand into little tasty bits. I know you've all thought about doing it, but that's what that skill is. You just want to chop things into tasty bits. So as a result, it is a better version of Base Guardian, which is already fun, and it goes B tier. So there's that. Next. You guys have never thought that? Come on, don't lie. Don't lie. You guys have never even thought about putting your hand on the garbage disposal in your sink? What? No. You guys all think that. Have you guys ever opened like a can of like a can of beans or a can of vegetables or something like that? And you know how sharp, do you know how sharp the edge of like a tin can is? Like how like razor fucking sharp that is? Haven't you guys ever thought about taking that razor sharp edge on that can and just like running it on your tongue and just fucking blasting your tongue with that razor sharp edge. Come on, everyone thinks about doing that. You guys all think about doing that. But let's not digress any further. But you guys will think about doing that next time you open a can of beans. The temptation is going to be so strong. I urge you. I don't believe in self-harm. Guys, do not self-harm. But I know next time you open a can, you're going to have that razor sharp can in your hand, and you're just going to be like, what if? What if? But don't do it. You consider it, but don't do it. Next, Firebrand. Firebrand, fun to play. I don't think anyone would deny that Firebrand is fun to play. It's got a bazillion different builds. It's effective. It's super fun. Oh, so this is the tier list ranked by fun to play in PvE. Fun to play in PvE. And honestly, I have to say that Firebrand is S tier. Now, people might, yeah, it's not even a jack of all trades. It's god of all trades. And on top of that, it's fun to fucking play. Like, as insult to injury, it's the most it's arguably the most powerful spec in the game, and it's fucking fun to play. Like, you get really satisfying animations. Your F1 tome, like, those animations are sick. Everything's good. The axe animations are good, even if they're a little janky in that they don't line up with like your actual swing, but whatever. It's good. Willbender. Now this is gonna be a hot take, but remember how I was saying that like the greatsword animations are so good, and that's why Base Guardian is good, and that's why Dragonhunter is good, because they're carried by the greatsword that Guardian has. Willbender also has that greatsword. However, the hot take is it ain't any better, or it's not more fun to play than Base Guard. It is the exact same fun to play as Base Guard, so it goes in C tier because it is literally the exact same fun to play. I defy you to tell me that one of these is more fun to play than the other. They are essentially the exact same spec in terms of fun to play. Sure, the buttons you press are going to be slightly different on the Willbender, but not that different. Base mesmer. Base mesmer is it is dog. It is not fun. You do Z DPS. You have very little utility. It is not particularly fun to play. You see a lot of base mesmers running around open world with greatsword. It has no place in raids, no place in fractals. It is a garbage open world build. There is nothing you can do on base mesmer that you can't do better on a chrono. Chrono, it doesn't, we're talking about fun, dude. Maybe base mesmer does the same DPS as chrono. Maybe it does. But just the fact that continuum split exists makes it more fun instantly than base mesmer. It's way more fun to cast your phantasms 4 times than it is to cast it 2 times. That's just math. You can't deny that casting your phantasms 4 times is more fun. However, is chrono fun to play? I mean, DPS chrono is sort of fun to play, but it's not very good anymore. There's a reason why they call it chrono jail. Am I right? Like, you're in jail. You're in jail if you're playing chrono. I don't know that it's very fun, but I think there are people that like it. I would say it's high C, but then I compare it to the other specs in C tier, and I think it's better. So I think we're going B tier with chrono. It does have variety, and it has a more fun play style than the base thing. But I mean, does it compare with Tempest or Scrapper? No, it's definitely not in that universe. Next up, we have Mirage. Mirage is going to... This is going to be interesting because I think Mirage is super powerful. Obviously, there's certain raid bosses that it dominates. It shits all over. It's quite good. And the staff Mirage build can be played in several different ways. And spoiler alert, if ANET ever changes the game to where boons are all 5 men and buffs are all 5 men, Staff Mirage is going to be meta. It is going to be meta. Now, you guys don't want to believe me, but listen. If all buffs are 5 men, that means you got to get quickness, alacrity, and might for every 5 people. That's 3 things right there. So you need, and that only leaves room for a little bit of roll compression. Like, you throw in a warrior, now you're at 4 things. That means you might only have 1 DPS player per, like, 5-man sub. We need roll compression. Staff Mirage is going to make 25 might and alacrity on your group. So that is very powerful. So get ready for Staff Mirage. It is going to be very meta if those changes that everyone's thinking about are happening. Is it more fun than Chrono? I think it's different, but it's the same. It's the same level. I would not put it in A tier with Tempest or Scrapper, no way. But it is good, and it's going to be more effective. Virtuoso. This is a spec that got very little love from people. Virtuoso is a better version of base mesmer. Base mesmer, Virtuoso just does everything base mesmer does, but slightly cooler, slightly better, slightly cooler visuals, etc. The selling point, I think, of Virtuoso, and with a lot of the EOD specs, is that they are easy to understand. You do not need a PhD in Guild Wars 2 to understand how to play Virtuoso necessarily the way you really needed to be a pretty experienced player to get the most out of some of the POF specs and even some of the HOT specs. I think they purposely simplified some of the EOD specs in terms of like mechanical complexity and complexity, just because they want to make it so that new players have a spec that they can pick up and be effective on without having to be god mode players, and I think Virtuoso is definitely in that role. Is Virtuoso more fun than Chrono? I don't think so. Is it more fun than Mirage? No. Is it more fun than base mesmer? Yes, it is more fun than base mesmer. So that would incline me to put it in C tier, but I look at the other specs in C tier, and for some reason I feel like it is more fun than these C tier specs so far. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that also in B tier, just because it's more fun than base Guardian. Let's be honest. Yeah, base Necro. No, base Necro is terrible. I'm tired of seeing every new streamer that comes to Guild Wars 2 playing Necro, and the weapons are terrible. Staff Necro, not fun. Not a good weapon. Using Dagger on Necro in open world, not fun, not good. Using Axe on Necro in open world, not particularly fun, not particularly good. Is Shroud, is like the base Necro Death Shroud good? It's okay. The problem with base Necro is the best weapons I mean, I guess Scepter's okay, but the problem is the best weapon for base Necro is Specter, obviously, and a lot of the best traits are Condi traits. Well, here's the problem: Death Shroud for base Necro is all power. Death Shroud doesn't do shit on base Necro unless you're a power build. So you have like there's a discrepancy between what the best traits and the best weapon want you to do and what the Death Shroud wants you to do. So it's a spec that doesn't have a lot of internal consistency, and as a result, it is not particularly good. And we're gonna go ahead and not take it. Harbinger. Harbinger is weird because if this was beta 1 weekend, I would have put it A tier without reservation. The rotation on beta 1 weekend was A tier. It was super fun. It looked good visually. It pumped. It felt fun to play. It was a great damage loop. Yeah, it was good. It was good. Beta 2, it got chopped. It got taken down a notch. And I have a pretty strong feeling that it's going to change again for release, and it's going to look quite a bit different from what we saw in Beta 2 on release. But as of right now, it's B tier. If it's released the way, if we just go by Beta 2, it's definitely not A tier anymore, and it's definitely way better than C tier, so it's a solid B. Reaper. Again, this is a tier list about what's fun to play. Fun to play. That means Reaper is a solid fucking S tier. And anyone who disagrees with that has not run around open world with a Greatsword Reaper and just fucking blasted. And Reaper is low-key one of the most fun builds to pug on in raids. You join raids on Reaper and you say DPS, and people might go, Reaper, DPS, and then you fucking pump and you dump on them, and you're like, hey man, I thought Reaper sucked, but yet I'm the one who's way ahead of you on DPS in this fight, because they all underestimate Reaper. All the pugs underestimate Reaper, and therefore that is fun. Dumping on them is fun, and Reaper does that, and it's very satisfying play. Scourge solidly A tier. It's solid. Obviously, Scourge is one of the most overpowered specs in the game, but from a pure fun perspective, essentially what you're doing with Scourge is pressing your buttons as soon as they light up. It's not the most DPS Scourge. It's very easy to play. You can be very effective just like spamming your buttons. Heal Scourge, completely other side of the room. Heal Scourge is great. It's very powerful at what it does. In the hands of a good player, it will up your win rate. But I don't think anyone is like blown. It's just hard to put it S tier. I just don't think I could put it S tier. It's definitely way better than B tier. Is it S tier? No, it's not S tier fun to play. So it goes A tier. All right, base Ranger. We can go ahead and put that in S tier. I almost want to put a uninstall tier below. How do we add another tier? Add a row below. Got it. This is uninstall tier, and we're gonna put base Ranger on uninstall tier. Now it's controversial. There's other things that are now going in uninstall tier, and it's Mechanist. Since we added a new tier called uninstall tier, Mechanist is gonna join it down there. Now you might say, wait a second, aren't you being a little mean to base Ranger? Sort of, because base Condi Ranger isn't that bad. you can do worse than playing like a quick draw build. Yeah, base core necro is uninstalled tier 2. You're right. It's not fair to put it on the same level as base mesmer or base ele because those are way more fun to play than base necro. I would say actually compared to Mechanist and core necro, core ranger is actually more fun than those two. So those two might even be like a tier below, but I don't want to do a tier below because a tier below is like Final Fantasy 14 tier. Like, no, we're not going there. But it's also not great because there's other ranger specs that just are so much better at what core ranger wants to do. Druid is does anyone have fun playing Druid in raids, or do they just do it because it's needed? And I think Druid is a really good place to hide if you are a bad player, because most people can't evaluate whether Druids are good. When Condi Druid was meta, it was fun. And when you had to have, like before Grace of the Land was changed, and Condi Druid was meta, Druid was, I would say, pretty fun to play. But now it is not particularly fun to play. I think people play it because they have to, and they play it because it's a good place to hide. I'm not going to name any names, but we were playing Strikes with Mela earlier in the week, or maybe it was over the weekend, and there was a guy in the group playing Druid who was flaming people, and the guy on Druid was flaming the group for dying or whatever, or whatever his flames were about. But we looked at the log, and he did nothing. Like he went into CA a couple times, but like he didn't use any of his staff skills, and it took him like 30 seconds into the fight before he like auto attacked on staff. Like he wasn't using his skills, and he flamed people, and it left a bad taste in my mouth. So it does seem like the type of spec where people hide, and when they're bad, and it's not fun. It's fucking solidly D tier. It's not uninstall tier, but it is D tier. It's not. I wouldn't. If Condi Druid ever comes back, which it might in the X pack, because I've heard on Teapot's stream a hot leak that I forget who said it on Teapot's stream, but there was a hot leak that we're getting Viper's gear, but with boon duration on it. And if that is the case, then if Condi Druid comes back and becomes the meta, it goes up to C tier, or maybe even B tier. But as of right now, it is solidly D tier. Is Selly Druid a thing nowadays? I mean, maybe, I don't know. I've never seen anyone in any group I've been in play it, but it could be. Soulbeast. Well, here's the generous thing I'm going to say about Soulbeast. It's by far the best and most fun to play Ranger spec. And the reason why is because you don't need to deal with the pet. And it also has a really pumper power build, and it has a really good underrated Condi build that people aren't using. It's a good spec. I'm torn on whether to put it in A or B, because honestly, do I feel it's as good as Tempest? No, but I think it is about Scourge level. I think in terms of fun, I think it is on the tier of Scourge, so Soulbeast having to go there. Yo, Ramirez, we are rating them based on fun to play in PvE. Yo, Wilson, dude, long time no see, man. How you been? All right, next, the new one. Wilson is a old school Guild Wars 2 streamer back when roaming in World v World was a thing that sane people did. As a result, Wilson did it and went insane, which is what you have to do it now, and he since left the community, but we do miss him. All right, so next up is Untamed. Untamed is it's weird. It's like Untamed is like Base Ranger and Soulbeast had a kid, but the kid was heavily deformed and was basically, the kid was a papig. Like the kid was like a papig, and as a result, it's just not. It's a pet class, so it's a pet class, so I knock it down a tier from what it should normally be. I would normally say it's C tier. However, since it's a pet class, it gets down a peg and it goes D tier. Especially since it relies on the pet. It's not uninstall tier. Like, if you were like, gun to my head, would you rather play Base Ranger or play Untamed? I would play Untamed. It is more fun than Base Ranger, but it's not particularly fun. Even the icon is Papeg. Look at that. It's like literally if the Papega emote was looking at you straight ahead. It is the Papega emote looking at you straight ahead. Yeah, so there. Yeah. Goes there. All right, Base Revenant. So Base Revenant it has a reasonable build. Base Revenant has a reasonable Condi build, as far as I understand. The issue is it's reliant on kind of like, I mean, if you put Tormenting Runes on a Condi base rev, it's not going to be that bad. Like, it's going to be a totally reasonable thing. Yes, I do remember what the base rev F1 does, and it's garbage. Shiro makes Shiro makes you like your next few attacks unblockable. The dwarf one does like damage reduction for a few seconds. The Malix one gives you a little bit of resistance. It's yeah. The problem is it's worse than the other specs. It's not uninstall tier. I just don't know why you'd ever do it. So, but I'm gonna put it in C because it is better than these D tier specs. But there's no reason to play it. There is no reason to play it. Yeah. Moving on. Like, I was gonna make a very crude, overly sexualized comparison to what it is. But yes, we're more mature than that. We're a little bit more mature in making crude sexual comparisons between the specs. Yeah. I mean, maybe not everybody, but we're trying to keep it highbrow. Trying. Herald is hog as fuck. Everyone knows Herald is fun to play. You can play Boon Herald in raids. Good fun build. You can play Condi Tormenting Rune, God mode. Check my YouTube channel for build guide for God mode Herald for open world, and it is immensely fun. It goes S tier. Go there. C. Wilson, thank you for pointing that out. But unfortunately, unlike, even though it looks like a pussy, it's more like a dry hand job. That's the problem. It looks like a vagina, but it's also more like a dry hand job when you play it. Yeah. So, next up, Renegade. Renegade, you know what? It's also S tier. Renegade, very fun to play. It's just good. It is a very good elite spec. Lots of fun buttons to press. When you press your buttons, it feels like it does stuff. The animations are all pog. It's good. I can see the argument that it might only be A tier, but no, it's good and it's good. It's good. Vindicator, however, needs a little work. Vindicator, beta weekend 1 was a solid C tier. Beta weekend 1, it was C tier. Beta weekend 2, it was tuned a little bit better. It felt a little bit better to play. I'm gonna go B tier. You guys might say that it's A tier, but it hasn't proven it yet. It's not there yet. You gotta earn A tier. A tier is a consistent all-star. You got to earn that place. All right, now we're moving on to the thief specs. So now we have base thief, and now remember, this is a fun to play in PvE. Base thief. No, man, that's D tier. Don't do that. The only thing you could sort of play base thief backstab, but why? Why? Why not Deadeye backstab? It's better. It's just better and more fun. It's not fun. It's D tier. It's not fun. All right. Daredevil is solid A tier, and I think that might be controversial. People might rank that lower, but it's got the Condi build, which is fun. Like if you want to play pure Condi damage, you can play Boon Thief. You can play Boon Thief in raids on certain bosses, which is fun. The staff, you get to leap around like a primate. You can ooga booga and do like actually very good damage. You can join a pug on Staff Daredevil, and people are like, Staff Daredevil, is that even a real raid build? And you pump, and you will win the DPS race in your pug by ooga booging. It just is good, and it feels right. It's one of those specs where like, ANET was like, we're gonna make this spec based on leaping around like a Fruit Loop and doing damage, and sure enough, they pulled it off. They pulled it off. You leap around like a Fruit Loop and you do damage. Yeah, you can't complain about that. Next up is Daredevil. Daredevil is Deadeye. It is a roleplay spec. Is it particularly fun to play? No. Rifle Deadeye is not fun to play. I would say the only fun Deadeye build is Dagger. Dagger is fun to play. But the rifle, it's 2 RP. But it's not a pet class. I'm gonna put this in C tier. It's okay. I don't see the appeal of that. Like the Dagger's fun. Pistol, we're not playing that game. Now we have Specter. Specter is a spec unlike anything that we've seen in Guild Wars 2 before. It is a single target support spec and also does damage and does a whole bunch of weird shit. We're not talking about PvP or World v World where it's also fun, but it's such a different, weird, and awesome spec. The first weekend that we saw it, it was popping off. It was like the most busted, overpowered shit. Second weekend, they might have nerfed it a little too hard in PvE to where you were like, I don't know. However, if they do nerf all the boon stuff to 5-man and then buff it just a little bit, then all of a sudden Specter is back to being a fucking all-star in terms of power level. But in terms of fun to play, it's got to be S tier. It is fun to play. It's bonkers. So we go there. It's S tier. It feels good. The animations are good. It's purple. Purple is very good. Go there. And now we've saved the best for last, and that's right. We're talking about Warrior. Best for last. Base Warrior is Is Base Warrior uninstall tier? No. Is it B tier? Oh no. So the question is whether or not Base Warrior is C tier or D tier. And now let's look at the specs here and compare them. Is Base Warrior on the same tier as Deadeye? No. No. It is not on the same tier as Deadeye. Deadeye is more fun to play than Base Warrior. Base Guardian is more fun to play than Base Warrior. That's a fact. Weaver is more fun to play than Base Warrior. So it's got to be D tier. There's no. If we assume for a second, if my list has internal consistency, with these specs as being C tier, then you can't put Base Warrior with these specs. It's just better. Berserker. Berserker is, if you go by just the Condi build, I would say it's B tier. If you go by the power build, man, I'm going to have to say it's all things considered, I think it's S tier. It's pretty strong. It's not that it's overpowered, but decapitate spam, people are like, haha, it's easy. It is easy, but also I see people when I'm playing it and I'm getting 24k DPS on a particular boss and they're getting 9k, obviously there's some skill there that is required, you know, to make stuff happen. But it feels the way Warrior should feel. Berserker feels like when you go, like if you like took like a bunch of people that play, and yes, I do when I do raid on Berserker, I tend to play Greatsword unless I need the CC on swap. But if you like asked people in like the greater MMO community, like, oh, well, hey, we're designing a new MMO today, and we have a warrior class. How do you think the warrior class should play? Like, what sort of things do you associate with the warrior class? Everything people say is what Berserker is. So Berserker is like what the warrior class should be in an MMO, and that's that. I'm gonna save Bladesworn for last. Now we're gonna go to Spellbreaker. Now this might surprise you guys. We're talking PvE. It is sort of more fun than Base Warrior because it feels good. It feels good when you are soloing stuff to get that whatchamacallit, your shield thing, and I forget, I don't even like what it's called, but it's good. It's good in open world, not so good in organized content. But is it as good as these B tier specs? Fuck no. Fuck no. So it's solid C tier. Yeah. And then last we have Bladesworn. Bladesworn in beta 1, we're not talking about power level. Not talking about power level. Just fun to play. In beta 1, fun to play, it was probably D tier. Because literally you just smashed your fucking buttons, and every 5 seconds you would sit there for 5 seconds doing literal nothing. And then you would hit like an ungodly big hit. It was not fun. The only thing fun about it was the fact that the damage was so overtuned that you were just embarrassing the content in the game. That was fun. But every other bit of time, not fun. Beta 2 with Bladesworn, the rotation was fucking pog. And the people that are like, oh, I don't like the Bladesworn rotation, it's spammy. People still post that shit on Reddit. That's wrong. They didn't play the good rotation in Beta 2. The Beta 2 rotation was, it looped fucking perfect. It looped so good. It integrated the pistol so nicely into the rotation. It was a delight to play that rotation. And the most annoying thing was the 5 seconds that you spent doing nothing while you were charging up your big hit. They cut that way down. So they took the most annoying thing and they cut it way down. Is it S tier? No, it's not S tier. Is it better than these B tier specs? I think so. So it's right now solidly A tier. And that's it. That's my fun to play Guild Wars 2 elite spec tier list after beta 2 or as of beta 2. On release, these things might be a little bit different. For PvE, yeah. For these on release, these things might be a little bit different. But as of right now, that's that. The good news is only 3 specs are uninstalled here. Only 3 specs, guys, are uninstalled here. And Untamed isn't one of them. That's probably the biggest hot take. Maybe I should just maybe I should like sneak Untamed down to uninstall tier because, but no, I'll leave it there because it is more fun than base Ranger. But yeah, so we've done it. This is the tier list for fun to play in PvE as of beta 2 in Guild Wars 2. And I think some of the lower rated, I think Catalyst has a chance to move up to B tier on release. I think there's a few things they could do to tighten it up to move it up to B tier. I think there's a few things they could do to move Harbinger up to A or even S. I think Vindicator could easily move up to A tier, perhaps even S tier, with some changes in terms of fun to play. Willbender, I don't know, man. Willbender, they're gonna have to do brain surgery on Willbender to make it go up to A tier. I would be shocked if Willbender leapfrogged. I would be shocked if Willbender somehow leapfrogged Dragonhunter and moved up to A tier. I mean, it's possible that they could do that, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It does not seem legit. But anyway, guys,